Part 1: The Man Beneath the Vents. It started with a whisper. Something's breathing through the vent. Jules leaned closer to the rusted grate above his bed, filming with his phone. The video already had 120k views, and that was just from last week's post, My Haunted Apartment EP3. He was proud of the brand he was building, Cryptic Click. Urban legends were gold on YouTube, especially when paired with grainy night vision and eerie whisper tracks. The legend of the man beneath the vents was whispered around in forums. No one used any more old threads on r/nasleep and screenshots from 2009 blog posts that no longer loaded. Supposedly, in certain buildings constructed before 1970, there was a man who lived in the ventilation systems. Not metaphorically. Literally. He had no name. No face. Just skin pale as mold and eyes that only opened in complete darkness. Jules laughed at it the first time he read it. Another urban myth. But then came the draft one night, around 3:12 a.m. A strange, wet sound of slow exhale. Jules had turned on his recorder, only to catch a brief groan followed by tapping 3 knocks. Always 3. Now he sat beneath the vent with a flashlight, recording. Night 14. Something's in the ductwork, he whispered, the beam of light flickering slightly as it touched the metal grate. I've sealed every door. There's no draft. No way wind could be doing this. He zoomed in. The grate moved. Just slightly. Not a full shake, more like breathing. A rise and fall. Condensation had formed on the inside. As if someone's mouth had been inches away, huffing, whispering. Jules went silent, holding the camera with both hands. Then he saw it. A fingertip. Pressing softly against the mesh. He dropped the flashlight. Everything plunged into darkness. But the camera kept rolling. A breathless whimper escaped him as he scrambled backward. Something scraped inside the duct, a shuffle, soft and slick. Then, 3 knocks again. Knock. 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 The air changed. Something slid down inside the wall. Jules backed toward the closet, his phone trembling in his hand. The screen glitched as the audio spiked, a low groan, pitched down like broken speech. Then a voice. Not whispered. Not human. Guttural. You're awake now. The closet door slammed shut behind him. Jules ran. He bolted out the hallway, not bothering to stop the recording. He didn't sleep the rest of the night, nor the one after. But he posted the video. It went viral. Part 2: The Girl Who Watches the Static. They called her Static Girl on old message boards, blurry screenshots, anonymous stories, VHS-era photos showing a pale-faced girl sitting too close to an old CRT television. The legend went like this: if you watched the Static channel at 3:33 a.m. long enough, you'd see her. She wouldn't speak. She wouldn't move. But if you blinked, she'd get closer. Every time. And if she reached the screen before sunrise, she'd crawl out. Ava didn't believe in that kind of thing. She was a digital archivist and part-time skeptic who hosted a live podcast called Modern Mythos. Episode 217 was all about forgotten analog horror. Urban legends that had no logic. A product of Y2K hysteria, she'd said. Or maybe people were just lonely. Her friend Logan dared her to recreate the Static Girl ritual live on stream. For the content, he said. Ava rolled her eyes but agreed. So she found an old CRT television at a garage sale. The woman who sold it to her refused to look her in the eyes and only said, she likes the quiet ones. Creepy. But whatever. She set the TV up in her apartment, no cable, just a coiled antenna on top. She turned off all the lights. Lit a single candle. Just for drama. The screen fuzzed into soft gray noise. White static. Low hiss. Time, 3:31 a.m. Thousands watched the livestream. The chat was going crazy with comments. This is fake, right? Why am I seeing something move? Bro, she's sitting there. I swear. Ava laughed it off. Then the static flickered. Not the whole screen, just the bottom third. She leaned in. And there, barely visible, was the outline of knees. Pale. Child-sized. Pressed to the screen. The candle flickered. Time, 3:32 a.m. Okay, we're getting creepy now, Ava said, smirking. She reached for the remote. The TV turned off. She hadn't pressed anything. Behind her, the studio lights crackled. Her mic screeched with sharp feedback. The screen powered back on by itself. No longer static. Just black. And a reflection. A child, sitting cross-legged. Inside the screen. Time, 3:33 a.m. Ava froze. The girl lifted her head slowly. Her face pale and distorted, eyes solid black. Her mouth didn't move. But Ava could hear her. Inside her skull. Turn the sound up. The candle snuffed itself out. The TV speakers buzzed, then a deafening scream of white noise that forced Ava to cover her ears and drop to the floor. The stream went offline. The chat disconnected. When police were called the next morning, they found the apartment dark. The TV was still on, displaying only static. Ava was missing. But the investigators noted something disturbing. Handprints on the inside of the screen. Small. Greasy. Still warm. Part 3, The Mirror in Room 313. Evan Grady had never believed in ghosts. Not really. He was a hotel inspector, the kind hired by travel apps to secretly rate service, cleanliness, and guest safety. A quiet job. Easy money. Sleep, eat, report. Repeat. But the Cranewood Inn was different. Built in 1891, the Victorian Hotel in upstate Maine had one room permanently off-limits, room 313. The staff never spoke about it, only saying it was under renovation. But Evan was a thorough man, and when his master key worked on the rusted brass knob, he took it as a sign to do his job properly. The air inside was stale, untouched. Velvet curtains hung limp against cracked windows. The wallpaper peeled in long, curling strips like old skin. The furniture was all draped in white sheets except the mirror. A full-length, Victorian monstrosity bolted to the wall. The glass was polished. Untouched by time. But the frame was wrong. Carved with odd, overlapping circles and faces that weren't quite human, more like twisted dolls. And when Evan looked in it, something was off. The room behind him was darker in the reflection. He turned. Normal. Back to the mirror, darker again. His own face seemed softer. Almost like someone else's features were slowly bleeding through. Then he saw the movement. Behind him in the reflection. A woman. Standing in the corner. Wearing black. Thin arms. Head tilted. He spun around. Nothing. But when he turned back, she was closer. He blinked. Closer still. Her mouth opened, slack and unnatural. Her eyes were gray, mirror gray. Her skin shimmered like glass. Evan backed away, but the reflection didn't match his movements. The mirror version of himself didn't move at all. He just stood there, staring. Then the mirror Evan smiled. The glass cracked slightly. A single hairline fracture across the surface, like the mirror was trying to breathe. Panicked, Evan turned to leave, but the doorknob wouldn't turn. Locked. He yanked and pulled, but it was sealed. Behind him, the glass began to hum a low vibration, like a tuning fork struck underwater. When he looked back, the woman was gone. But now the mirror showed something else. The hallway. The camera feed outside the door. And in that hallway, something was walking. Slow. Deliberate. Its face distorted like a warped reflection. It was coming toward room 313. Then the lights in the mirror went out. Black screen. And from behind him came a sharp, cold breath against his neck. Evan Grady's body was found 2 days later. Eyes wide. Heart stopped. No visible wounds. The mirror was covered with a white sheet again. But underneath, if you peel it back, you'll see fingerprints pressed against the inside of the glass. Long and thin. Still smearing downward. And if you stare too long, your reflection might blink when you don't. Part 4, The Hitchhiker in the Fog. They say she appears on foggy nights. Always by the side of the road. Always alone. The Hitchhiker. Some say her name was Marla Dane, a college student killed in a hit-and-run back in 1978. Others claim she was never real, that she's just a ghost story to keep drivers alert. But if you take Route 47 through the woods between New Ashfield and Briar Hollow, and if the fog is thick enough to swallow your high beams, you might see her. That's what happened to Caleb. He was driving home after a wedding. It was nearly 2 a.m., and the air was so dense with fog, he had to slow to a crawl. Trees loomed like ghosts on either side of the road. His playlist cut out halfway through a song, and the signal dropped. No GPS. No music. Just the soft thrum of tires on damp asphalt. Then he saw her. A figure on the shoulder. White dress. Bare feet. Long hair matted against her cheeks. She didn't move. Caleb braked hard, heart thumping. "Hey," he called out, rolling the window down. "You okay?" She looked at him, but not at him. Her eyes were blank. Reflective, like wet marbles. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. He unlocked the passenger door. She got in. No words. Just silence. She stared ahead like she'd done this 1,000 times. Caleb's throat was dry. Where do you need to go?" She turned to him slowly. "Home." He tried not to shiver. Her voice was distant. Faint, like a tape that had been played too many times. They drove. After 5 minutes, the fog grew so thick, Caleb couldn't even see the hood of his car. The GPS flickered back on briefly, just enough to show him he wasn't on Route 47 anymore. The road he was on wasn't even labeled. "Am I going the right way?" he asked. The girl didn't answer. Instead, she held up a hand and pointed ahead, through the fog. Her arm didn't move naturally. It jerked, like a puppet on strings. Then came the cold. It flooded the car from beneath the seats, from the vents, from her skin. Caleb's breath misted in the air. His fingers trembled on the steering wheel. He looked over again, and her face had changed. Still pale. Still still. But now her eyes were missing. 2 hollow pits. Bleeding mist. Caleb screamed and slammed the brakes. The car slid sideways and hit something, a tree maybe. The windshield cracked. When he looked to the passenger seat again, she was gone. Just a wet handprint on the glass. And a whisper, floating in the fog like wind. "Take me home." Caleb was found wandering on foot miles from the crash. Rambling about a woman in white. A road that wasn't real. Eyes that had never been eyes at all. He never drove again. Part 5, The House That Calls Your Name. No one ever finds it on purpose. The house. It appears differently to everyone who sees it, sometimes a weathered Victorian manor with broken shutters, other times a sleek, modern home with spotless glass and glowing lights inside. But always in a place it shouldn't be. In a clearing that didn't exist yesterday. At the end of a street that wasn't on any map. Behind the trees, when you swear there was nothing there a moment ago. But the one constant? You hear your name. Whispered. Inside your head. Riley, a night runner training for her first marathon, was cutting through a wooded path behind her apartment complex when she saw it. A single house. In the middle of the forest. Its windows were all lit, warm and amber, like someone was waiting inside. A porch swing creaked gently, even though there was no wind. She stopped running. Then she heard it. Riley. A whisper just behind her left ear. She turned. No one. Her breath quickened. She looked back toward the house, and now the front door was open. Hello, she called out. Is someone? Another whisper. This time, from the trees. Come home. Riley should have run. Every muscle in her body told her to. But her legs moved without her. She stepped forward once, twice. Her heart pounding like a war drum. The porch groaned under her weight. The smell hit her then, not decay, exactly. More like dust and ash. Something ancient, forgotten. She stepped inside. The lights were on. Candles. Hundreds of them. Lining the staircase, the hallways, even inside the fireplace. Their flames didn't flicker. They burned straight up. Perfectly still. She passed a mirror on the wall. Her reflection wasn't moving. It just stood there, staring. Riley. This time it came from upstairs. She should have left. But instead, she climbed. Each stair let out a low, groaning creak like a mouth trying to open. At the top, a hallway stretched longer than the house should have allowed. The floor was lined with shoes. All mismatched. All worn. As if dozens had walked these halls before her and never walked back. A door opened ahead. No handle. Just a gap yawning wide. Inside, she saw her childhood bedroom. Down to the scratch on the dresser. The posters she hadn't seen in 10 years. Her old stuffed rabbit, torn at the ear. She stepped inside, and the door shut behind her. The lights went out. The whisper returned. Right behind her. We've been waiting. Epilogue, the channel that went too far. 3 months later, an abandoned camera was found in a duffel bag outside an old gas station. Inside were 5 videos. Each one matching these legends, each filmed by the same person. The final clip? A short video, uploaded automatically, that ended in darkness in one word. Subscribe.